20 Chinese warships move in, destroyers, Coast Guard cutters, and militia boats closing in until the U.S. destroyer sits at the center of a tightening circle.
美方罔顧事實
The US has disregarded facts, maliciously smeared and accused China's legitimate and lawful actions to safeguard its rights, and even attempted to threaten China with a US-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty. China firmly safeguards its territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests, and insists that countries directly concerned resolve maritime disputes peacefully through negotiations and consultations. This has once again exposed the US's ill intention of deliberately provoking confrontation and disrupting the South China Sea, and once again demonstrated that the US is the biggest source of risk to undermine regional stability.
The range drops to just 300 yards. Radios crackle. One wrong maneuver could ignite a full-scale war. We break down how the US crew held position under encirclement, radar locked, hands cold on steel controls, and why this moment revealed the razor-thin line between deterrence and disaster. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
Any threats and provocations are futile and will never succeed.
不可能得逞。我依法对相关
China's competent authorities have clarified its position on rare earth export control policies. This is also in line with international practice. China's position has been consistent and clear. Instead, the US side wants to talk while making threats and intimidation. China implements export controls on relevant items in accordance with the law in order to better maintain regional and global peace and stability and fulfill international obligations such as non-proliferation.
20 ships, 1 destroyer. The proximity trap wasn't about who fired first, it was about composure under pressure, steel against steel, and who blinked when the line closed to 300 yards. It began with a collision, a minor scrape near disputed waters, metal grinding against metal where navigation lanes overlap and tempers run tight. That single impact turned into a swarm. Chinese destroyers, militia trawlers, and Coast Guard cutters surged toward the American vessel, forming a rough circle that tightened with each minute. What looked like random chaos from satellite view was anything but. This was coordination under tension, a deliberate pattern meant to push the US commander to react first. The sea churned with overlapping wakes. Engines of different classes throbbed out of sync, producing a low mechanical hum that felt almost alive. Over radio channels came overlapping voices, threats, demands for withdrawal, and clipped naval jargon drowned by static. For every phrase, there was a pause long enough to catch the US crews breathing through open comms.
Imposing high tariffs and introducing new restrictive measures. This is not the right way to deal with China. We urge the US to correct its wrong practices as soon as possible and resolve relevant issues through dialogue and consultation on the basis of equality, respect, and mutual benefit.
Those moments mattered. In encounters like this, silence carries more meaning than words. By the time the range compressed to under a third of a nautical mile, the US destroyer stood motionless inside a ring of hulls broadside. Its radar locked on multiple contacts, each track tagged, distance measured to the yard. That radar tone wasn't a weapon in itself, it was language. In maritime standoffs, radar lock is a quiet declaration: we see you, we're ready, we remain within our rights. The crew kept it steady, their training guiding every action down to how long to keep fingers near the trigger. But then, pressure cracked not from the Americans, but from within the encirclement. A Chinese destroyer on the outer ring misjudged its bearing and clipped a Coast Guard ship cutting across its course. The impact threw smoke into the air, a dirty plume that drifted across the formation. You could almost feel the sudden confusion ripple outward. For a brief window, radio chatter from the Chinese side spiked in tone and volume, a breakdown showing that even orchestrated aggression strains when pushed this close. It's called a tightening encirclement, a maneuver without shots but full of meaning. Ships close the distance until maneuvering options vanish, turning diplomacy into physics. Within 300 yards, ships the length of a football field face massive hydrodynamic effects. Propellers pull and push currents that can draw hulls together even without intent. That's the danger point. where a turn becomes collision and any reaction could be seen as hostile. At that range, politics take a back seat. Inside the destroyer, every sailor knew that. Hands stayed fixed on controls, eyes divided between radar screens and the horizon line. The commander held position, not passive, not defiant, just controlled. That act of stillness is its own tactic. It shows confidence without escalation. The logic is simple: move, and you create angles for misinterpretation; hold, and you force the other side to deal with their own momentum. Meanwhile, the Chinese formation seemed to breathe inward and outward, testing the gap, adjusting fire control radars but stopping short of direct lock. Each movement announced an invisible contest of nerve. The U.S. ship kept its bow pointed steady, radar beams tracing arcs that mirrored every encroachment. Crew members could feel the hum of electronic systems resonating through the deck as the destroyer transmitted its silent warning into the dense electronic air. When distance narrowed past 300 yards, the threshold shifted from tactical abstraction to human reality. On open sea, a quarter turn of the helm could carry a vessel 40 yards in seconds. Any misstep would be irreversible. Commanders on both sides understood the margin. Legality and survival could pivot on a few feet. The Americans relied on their rules of engagement, a structured restraint designed for moments exactly like this, moments where misplacement of judgment could globally alter policy before dawn. As daylight broke over that contested patch of sea, the destroyer still held its station, radar signatures clean, guns silent. The ring of Chinese ships drifted outward slowly, as if testing how far they could pull without conceding face. That withdrawal wasn't victory for either side. It was survival through discipline. Holding position in an encirclement so close that optical systems could read hull numbers isn't weakness, it's control under stress. That day's 300-yard line divided more than water. It separated deterrence from disaster, readiness from reaction. And the question left behind goes deeper than tactics. In an age when brinkmanship defines power, is composure the last weapon that still prevents war? The 300-yard circle wasn't just water and steel. It was the threshold between deterrence and disaster, where one destroyer's discipline kept the peace. Holding radar lock while encircled by more than 20 hostile ships was more than protocol. It was restraint turned into strategy, an act that prevented tension from becoming combat. Every sailor aboard that destroyer understood the gravity of staying still when instinct said move. That's discipline under fire. So ask yourself, if you were at that helm, would you hold or break formation? Comment your choice below, and subscribe to join a community that studies modern conflict with clear eyes.